We got to get to the Heisman winner. Jayden Daniels, our guy, won the award. You just wrote a piece detailing what effect that might have on his draft status. I don't want you to give too much away because I want people to go over to, is it on, which website is it on?
98.5thesportshub.com.
On 98.5. I want to make sure that people go over there and read all your good stuff, but let us know what you can and how you do think that him winning the Heisman will affect potentially his draft status.
Yeah, so look, admittedly, it's a little bit of a eye-catch headline. Not so much how it affects it, but just the historical context of it. Mm-hmm. You look at recent Heisman winners, and I have to pull the list up to make sure I don't miss anybody, but pretty much every Heisman winning, so we're just talking quarterbacks here. Devontae Smith, when he won the Heisman, he went 10th, but we all know quarterbacks are quarterbacks. They're different. There's really two NFL drafts. There's the quarterback draft, and then there's that kind of intertwines with the regular draft. Yep. Caleb Williams won it last year. He's going to go 1-1. Bryce Young was a Heisman winner. He went 1-1. Joe Burrow won it, went 1-1. Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield. The last Heisman winner to not go 1-1 was Lamar Jackson in 2018. Now, Lamar didn't win the Heisman the year he got drafted. He won it as a freshman in 2016. He was drafted in 2018. Keep going back further. The last quarterback to win the Heisman and not go first his Heisman year was Marcus Mariota. He went second. So not that much of a drop for him. That was in 2014. You go further back, Johnny Manziel went 22nd, but that was 2 years after he won the Heisman. A couple other guys went later on. Tim Tebow went later on. The last quarterback to win the Heisman in his draft year and not go top two was Troy Smith all the way back in 2006.
I don't even know who that is. I don't know who Troy Smith is.
He went 174th. He was drafted by the Ravens. He hung around the league for like 2 or 3 years as a backup. He was a college quarterback. And he was kind of at the peak where the college game had evolved, but the NFL game hadn't caught up yet. So his skill set just wasn't going to transfer. Right. He was a little too ahead of his time. I say this to say, okay, so it's been, 15 years since a Heisman quarterback in his draft year, when his Heisman year and draft year the same year. It's been 15 years since a Heisman quarterback didn't go first or second overall. Does that lock Jayden Daniels into the first or second pick? No. But this is the kind of thing teams look at. It is a resume builder. And I think that when you talk about Jayden Daniels, we are talking about it probably a top 5, if not top 10, a top 10, if not top 5 pick. You're not talking about a guy you're going to sneak in at the end of the first round because a lot of these other players probably weren't top 2 picks. Their status was elevated by winning this award. So I certainly think it's notable, and it tells us that the football people, because this is voted on by, former Heisman winners, people who know the game, the football people hold Jayden Daniels in the same esteem that guys like Joe Burrow, Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield, Marcus Mariota were held. And I know that there's kind of some variance there in the kind of player, but they all were viewed the same on draft night. And so that's where the relevance is to me, that this whole thing about, you trade down to 15, you take Jayden Daniels, you add assets elsewhere. That's not happening. Not anymore. He is no longer a sleeper candidate. This is Jayden Daniels has become a premium blue chip quarterback prospect. Is he in the same tier as Caleb Williams or even Drake May? Maybe not. Can he get there? We'll see. But he's not like, you don't get to sound cool anymore saying, yeah, Caleb Williams and Drake May are great, but have you heard about Jayden Daniels? Yeah. He's risen well beyond that.
I'm disappointed. That's been my whole shtick like this entire time. So now I got to find a new one.
It happens, Taylor. It happens when you cover the draft. I don't know how many guys. I'll tell you one. I'll tell you one of mine. 2 years ago, I'm doing Patriots Beat with Evan Lazar, and this is when the Patriots they had already drafted Mac Jones, and they had that promising year, and it was like, all right, just like where can they kind of fill in the roster? And there's this defensive tackle from Georgia that was like a fringe first-round pick, and I keep telling Evan, I'm like, and the Patriots picked 21st that year, and everybody was like, oh, take him 21st. It would be this great kind of thing. And I'm like, we can talk about it all you want. He's not going to be there. And I remember the night before, we're doing the show before the combine, and Evan says, what are you looking forward to tonight? And I said, I'm looking forward to Jordan Davis 340-pound Jordan Davis running a sub 540. Never goes, all right, you need to get off the Jordan Davis stuff. Stop, enough. Next, a few hours later, Jordan Davis is the consensus top 10 pick. So it happened. Like, this is part of the fun of draft season. Sometimes your sleepers stay your sleepers and you hit on them. That was Pop Douglas for me last year. But then sometimes you think you found the guy and then everybody else finds him and suddenly he's not your guy anymore. He's just a guy.
It's really funny because I remember I was with the NFL Network at the time that I think before Jordan Davis was actually coming out. And literally after his combine performance, everyone was just going, like, I'm in the research department and people were going crazy. Like, what superhero comp can you think of for him? Because I think they showed on screen, it's like he's got this for the Hulk and all that stuff. Literally, his day was so insane that we were just like, all right, you got to find something like not human to compare him to. But yeah, now that's
I remember
Daniels,
saying
Flash,
Richard.
Whatever you want to call him.
Yeah, no, just on Jordan Davis. I remember because you'll appreciate this. Richard Seymour and Vince Wilfork's body.
Yeah, that's obviously the perfect, which is just horrifying to think of in one human body.
FanDuel is the exclusive wagering partner of the CLNS Media Network. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
And now that the season's actually over and we've got, not for everybody, but for the guys that we're going to talk about today, I think it's time that we actually start looking into their scouting reports. Now, once the season ends, that's when we'll have more time to get into the film, look into the nitty-gritty, and see for ourselves from an analytical standpoint, all right, what do these guys bring, where are their deficiencies, et cetera, et cetera. But for now, we're going to take a look at Bleacher Report for some of these guys' scouting reports, just get a feel for what some of the best eyes who are in this business have to say about them. This one was written by a friend of the show, Derek Klassen. He does fantastic work, one of the best QB evaluators for my money in the game. So height, obviously 6'4", good height. Weight, 210. You'd like to see that, we've discussed, to get up to like 215 by the time of the combine. Positives, elite athleticism, excellent burst, agility, and speed for the position. We all know that. Like, there's really not a quarterback in this class that really holds a candle to Jayden Daniels when it comes to athleticism. Above average pocket management and toughness, things that you would hope to see from a fifth-year starter. Above average process within the pocket, ties his feet to his eyes to remain in a throwing position late in the progression. Obviously, that's key because if you got to make a split-second decision, you want to see these guys, as the report says, get into position to get that ball out quickly and capitalize on those windows. Good ability to create, dangerous runner with sparse flashes of creativity as a thrower outside of the pocket. Now, sparse there is a key word because you talk about a guy like Caleb Williams and Drake May aren't the same kinds of athletes, but I do think their creativity from what I've seen outside of the pocket and their ability to like, oh crap, he's outside, something crazy might happen here. I think you see it more with those kind of guys. And then the final positive is very good deep ball accuracy, consistently drops it in the bucket, and we see that all the time with Jayden Daniels throwing those fade routes where just the tiniest of windows he's able to fit it into. Alex, any thoughts on the positives before we get into the negatives?
Yeah, well, some of them tie together, so I'll kind of save an overarching point, but I would say he's pretty much got it. And I think that pocket awareness, people see Jayden Daniels and look, he's a guy with 4.4 speed, and he looks faster than that. He's got, long legs, long strides, kind of reminds me. Remember when Colin Kaepernick would like take off down the sideline and it just looked like he was floating? Like Jayden Daniels he's got that track, not just track speed, but like he runs like a track runner. He doesn't run like a football player. So I think in all that, people lose sight of maybe not just his short area quickness, but his ability to move within the pocket without running, to just kind of move his feet, reset himself, and still look downfield to throw. Don't pin him in as just a running quarterback. He can run. But this is what sets Jayden Daniels apart. There's a lot of quarterbacks in college nowadays with 4.4 speed who can just take off and can make dazzling plays with their legs. What sets a guy like Jayden Daniels apart is that's not his primary threat. It's a threat, but it's not his primary threat. It's not his first instinct. His first instinct is still to throw, and that's what makes him different.
And that was what excited me, because when you have a quarterback with that kind of athleticism who doesn't use it as a crutch, but uses it as a positive and to get them out of trouble, that's what excites you, because we see it all the time. The best quarterbacks are usually the ones who can extend plays in one way or another. And when you can just take it yourself, like Lamar Jackson, I think they said he scrambled more in the game against the Rams than he has in years.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's a nice thing to have in your back pocket where Lamar isn't trying to necessarily be the dynamic runner that he is because he wants to be a pocket passer and preserve his career. But at the same time, if you can do it and a defense can't stop it, that's a pretty terrifying thing that a defense obviously always has to prepare for.
It's a great plan B. It's a little worrying when it's plan A.
Perfectly put. Put. Negatives. Skinny frame with a reckless abandon as a ball carrier opens himself up to future injury. We've talked about that ad nauseum. That's not a surprise to people who've been following the show. Mediocre velocity. Can sometimes struggle driving the ball into tight windows. Now, this is one where people talk about arm talent and arm strength. Arm strength isn't all-encompassing. It's just, it's Josh Allen throwing an 80-yard bomb. Sometimes it's just, okay, you're throwing it out from the far hash. Can you get it into that window, even though there's a defender in the receiver's hip pocket? Or sometimes if you're a little late on those timing throws, that arm strength, like we see it again with Josh Allen all the time. Or even if he's not on time or if the coverage is perfect, you can still get it in before the defender has a chance to make a play on the ball. So not the same as just dropping a pass into a deep window. It's also just being able to get it in there on short to intermediate throws. So inconsistent accuracy to the short and intermediate area, especially if not throwing on time. Again, that's where that velocity can pop up. And then we're just going to scroll. If you want to see the full breakdown, again, Derek, friend of the show, make sure to check it out. But looking at his grade, he got a 7.4, which is a high-level backup or a potential starter, which is third-round value. So we are talking right now about Jayden Daniels as someone who's gotten into the first round. And to be fair, I don't know when exactly Derek wrote this.
So scroll to the top. I was going to ask, when was this written?
Yeah, let's see. This was, I don't even think it says. Let's see. Yeah, I don't see a date on here.
Okay.
This very well could have been after this season when his draft status shot up because of all the explosive plays.
I'm going to guess this was before the start of this season. It reads a lot like what that was.
Yep. And then he's still QB3. So he was still regarded pretty highly. And the comp is Tyrod Taylor, which could sound bad. But if you look at like Tyrod when he was really good and when he was humming before all the injuries and he just kind of became the guy who was going to start before an incumbent starter got to get in the lineup because he got hurt. That just feels like it's been Tyrod's career for the past few years. That's a pretty good comparison, especially as someone who's going to come into an organization as a guy who's playing to be the starter, which is not something that happened with Tyrod early on in his career. But so you mentioned that this sounds more like Jayden Daniels' draft and scouting report before the season. So what do you think are the biggest differences from then to now?
So first of all, I'd say I think Tyrod Taylor's a good comp for the floor. And I see he uses a few other names up there, Kyler Murray and Jalen Hurts. Yeah. Obviously much taller than Kyler, 6'4" compared to whatever it is, 5'11", 6 foot. But that kind of play style, I actually think matches up a lot. My ceiling for him has kind of been a healthy RG3. And you got to remember back to who RG3 was before Washington ruined him and his knees. I think the big change is the accuracy. He was much more accurate this year than he's been in the past. As for those other two knocks, I think they kind of go hand in hand. Not necessarily one of the positives, but we're saying he needs to put on weight. I think everybody agrees with that. He's not going to go just stuff his face at an ice cream parlor. It sounds so old, ice cream parlor. He's not going to go stuff his face at a dessert buffet and just, put on a gut like I have. He's going to get in the gym. He's going to work up. He's going to build up his core. He's going to build up all that. He's going to add play strength. And that is not only going to help him become more durable, but it's also going to help him just, better core. You're going to be able to throw the ball a little bit harder. So it all kind of ties in. He basically just needs to, and this is true for a lot of young quarterbacks. He just needs to get on an NFL weight program, not just quarterbacks, a lot of draft prospects. Just needs to get on an NFL weight program, and he's going to do that. And I think that will help him out a lot. So his accuracy is better. It's certainly not a carrying trait. He's certainly not the most accurate quarterback in this class, but I think it's certainly good enough. Functional to me, maybe a bit of an undersell. But yeah, I think that's a pretty good summation of what he is. He's a guy that can create explosive plays. He throws the ball down the field well. He can create plays with his legs. It's really going to be about the stuff in between the explosive plays. All the stuff that, we've talked about Mac Jones' inability and even Bailey Zappi to kind of, he can hit the checkdowns and he can dink and dunk the way down the field, but they don't have the guy that can hit the 60-yard, middle of the field bomb on the post. Jayden Daniels can do that. He just needs to get better at, the 5-yard in cut and stuff like that. And That's teachable. And it doesn't mean it's guaranteed. You got to have a good coaching staff in place, but it's a very teachable thing to work with. So I like Jayden Daniels' teachables. I think most of his issues are things you can fix. You can't teach speed, right? You can't teach that. So I'd say it's a pretty accurate evaluation of Daniels. I just think the accuracy maybe isn't as much of a problem as it was previously. And that I don't think it was up there. My biggest plus for Jayden Daniels is how much better he is now than he was a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, because it shows that he knows how to learn, and he knows how to learn quickly, and he takes coaching, and he knows how to be critical of his game and improve his game. And that's so important. They don't have a lot of time to mess around. Oh, all right. I don't know where Taylor went. I'll just finish. They don't have a lot of, you guys know who I am. It's fine. This feels cozy. They don't have a lot of time to mess around on the quarterback. They need a guy that can step right in and kind of improve quickly and get acclimated. I held it down while you were gone. Don't worry. They need a guy that can get acclimated to the NFL quickly. And I think Jayden Daniels is a guy that can do that based on the way he got acclimated at LSU.
Yeah, and you mentioned the staying on schedule kind of stuff in between the explosives. Because the big thing when I started kind of getting into the tape with these guys is I watched Jayden and I saw that stuff. Like I was also watching him against Alabama where like with their match principles and obviously just Saban's scheme in general, it's very difficult to stay on schedule because they're so good at matching all the concepts and not giving you anywhere to throw. But when I watched him versus some of the other guys at the top of this class, we're going to talk about one after this, I did notice that there wasn't as much consistency where you see other guys like hit the easy throw, or hit the underneath throw, and it feels like they're sustaining drives consistently. Whereas with LSU's offense, I didn't feel that quite as much. And I felt like they were a bit more sporadic and there wasn't as much of that, down to down. All right, I'm liking what I'm seeing. They're stringing plays together. I felt like there was a lot less consistency there.